Welcome back. As we shift gears to the war in the Middle East, now the United Nations has passed a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, and it's doing this for the first time. It comes as 14 countries backed the resolution, while only the United States abstained. Meanwhile, the French ambassador to the United Nations Security Council, Nicolas de Rivière, says the adoption of the ceasefire resolution shows that the body can still act when all its members make the necessary effort to discharge their mandates. The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, on the other hand, stressed that adopting the resolution is a step in the right direction to stop the onslaughts and withdraw Israeli forces from Gaza, allow entry of aid and return of those displaced. In the meantime, the Israeli military says Hamas fighters have barricaded themselves inside Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital, claiming explosives are being thrown from inside the maternity ward and emergency room. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari noted Hamas fired at Israeli forces, causing extensive damage to the hospital buildings. General Hagari also said nearly 500 Hamas and jihad fighters have been arrested since the week-long siege began at the medical facility, adding that the IDF killed 20 fighters in a new offensive in Khan Yunis. Elsewhere, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says it's absolutely fundamental to preserve the lives of people in Gaza. Speaking at a press briefing in Amman, Jordan, the UN chief said he sees a growing consensus emerging in the international community to tell Israel a ceasefire is indeed needed. Mr. Guterres also touched down on the importance to have a massive supply of humanitarian aid to northern Gaza, said Israel's blocking of the UNRWA aid deliveries to northern Gaza was unacceptable, and reiterated his position over a possible ground offensive against Rafah, stressing that it could lead to a catastrophic humanitarian situation. So far, 32,333 people have been killed and over 74,000 injured since the October 7th attack. That's according to the health ministry in Gaza. And speaking of the ground offensive in Rafah, United States Vice President Kamala Harris is warning Israel could face consequences if it launches an incursion on the southern city. Speaking at an interview, Ms. Harris said it would be a huge mistake for the Israeli military to move on the city of Rafah. Although the vice president did not give details of what such consequences might entail, there's been growing concern by the U.S. and allies against Israel's ground operation in Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinian civilians are sheltering. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, on the other hand, has insisted that there's no way to defeat Hamas without entering Rafah. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters took to the streets of Brooklyn on Sunday, demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza as well. The protests, organized in solidarity with the people of Gaza, also highlights the hardship faced by Palestinians during the holy month of Ramadan. While demonstrators chanted slogans calling for the freedom of Palestine, they also expressed frustration with social media platforms for censoring posts about the people.
For a people who are being systematically starved to fast during Ramadan, people whose families have been separated, whose loved ones have been killed, and whose homes have been demolished. Ramadan invites us to know each other's pain, to take ourselves to our most essential selves. Who are we when food, water, materialism, and ego are stripped away? What remains? Connection, each other.
So our government is funding this genocide, but clearly the people across this country have said, not on our watch.
Not on our watch.
All over the globe, people have said, the government might be in cahoots, but we are not with a genocide. When they say never again, they mean never again.
Never again.
And when you bring your children out there, it tells us that we're showing them never again.
I am a recording artist. I'm actually the first person to ever put out a Ramadan album. And the reason why, at first it started out as a poke fun because I felt like people would try to put me in a box as an artist that was Muslim. But then it became very personal because of the things going on in Palestine. When you post something about Palestine, it's against our community guidelines on Instagram. It's being removed. Shame. Shame!
Meanwhile, pro-Palestinian supporters marched through the Netherlands capital, Amsterdam, to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Protesters came out despite the weather conditions, waved Palestinian flags and chanted slogans. They also voiced concern over Israel's operation in the Al-Shifa hospital and the anticipated ground assault on Rafah.
Process because this should stop. This is crazy. This can't go on. Palestine should be free.
This is so incredibly evil what they are doing. And Al-Shifa hospital under attack, Rafah may be under attack soon, so we have to go, we have to stay focusing and fighting for the liberation of Gaza as soon as possible. Every day counts, every second of the day counts. People are dying any moment of the day.
It's for the people of Palestine. It's for everyone who doesn't have a voice. We are here to represent them and to give them a voice and protest every day to call for an immediate ceasefire, not a temporary ceasefire, a permanent, immediate ceasefire for all the people of Palestine, for freedom in the West Bank, for freedom in Gaza, for freedom for all Palestinians.
In the meantime, hundreds of Muslims have attended a mass iftar event at the Emerentia Primary School in Johannesburg in solidarity with the Palestinian people. They gathered to break their fast and pay tribute to the people of Gaza during the holy month of Ramadan. Crowds of people sat on lawns inside the schools, on a lawn inside the school's grounds while listening to a series of speakers discuss the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the besieged Palestinian enclave.
We are gathering today to remember the people of Palestine. I know people might think that a massive iftar, we are thinking big feast and party, but no, we are here to remember those in Palestine. They are starving, they are dying, and we're here to say that we stand with them and we support them. And today, as we celebrate Human Rights Day, we know the parallels that we experience is from apartheid. We know what it feels like to live under oppression, and we say in South Africa we stand with you and we support you.
In recent weeks, Gaza has witnessed the tragic deaths of at least 27 children due to complications of acute malnutrition. Without a ceasefire and unhindered entry of aid, thousands more are at risk of succumbing to starvation in the weeks to come. According to UNICEF, in the north of Gaza, 1 in every 3 children under the age of 2 is battling severe acute malnutrition, doubling the numbers from January. Those who survive will suffer medium to long-term catastrophic and irreversible complications, which means they will have higher risks of heart disease, strokes, liver disease, and cognitive defects in the future.
They bombed my house completely when we were in it, inside the home. Then we displaced from our home to another area just to find a safer place. But unfortunately, there is no safer place in all Gaza Strip. Unfortunately, this is not the first war in Gaza, but it's the worst one. And I stayed there more than 126 days in the war, in the genocide, and trying just to film and show all the world what's happening there in Gaza, to show what the Israel doing in Gaza.
In the meantime, Algeria is sending 150 tons of humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza amid warnings of an imminent famine there. The items include food supplies and baby formula. The Defense Ministry says that this aid reflects Algeria's commitment to unconditional and unlimited solidarity with the Palestinian people. A military aircraft is transporting the aid from the Boufarik military airport near the capital Algiers to Egypt's El Arish airport, which is located close to the Gaza Strip. According to the UN, an estimated half of Gaza's population is starving following months of conflict with Israel. The agency projects that famine could be experienced in northern Gaza between March and May, and that the entire population of Gaza will be in famine by July.